Hello, and welcome to Gob. Gob is the company that I am just started up recently, and I am pioneering. I am the CEO and owner of it, living the American dream. What I'm going to do today is show you how to build a flicker cord. Now, flicker cords are something you'd want to use when you want to put power into a light, and it gives that flickering effect like a candle would at the wind. But you want to do that to an incandescent lamp. So you could be able to use this light and have the flickering candle effect in whatever kind of lighting situation you might be in, like be it a haunted house, your yard, a party, whatever you might want to have that special effect. And it doesn't cost hardly anything at all. So the parts that I'm going to use today is an inexpensive 6-foot extension cord. I picked this one up for $1.97 at Home Depot. You could probably get some at Walmart for probably, I've seen them as cheap as 95 cents, especially around Christmas time. The other one is a fluorescent starters. Now, last time I did this video, I went ahead and found that FS2 I tried. So what I'm going to try and do is use FS5. Now, these are starters. Now, it's a fluorescent starter. You can pick one up at Home Depot, Lowe's, any hardware store will have these. Anybody that sells a ballast, well, these are the starters that start up the fluorescent lights, and that's what this is going to be used for, this flicker cord. Now, I'm going to take an FS5. I tried FS2 last time. I just want to see what an FS5 can do. And you can experiment with whatever light you're going to use, and it all depends on the wattage. You don't want to exceed anything 100 watts. But I already have a flicker cord of an FS2. I'm going to try FS5. There are FS4s out there, but I've heard from people that they don't work that well, so I'm just going to work with FS2 and FS5. Besides the parts, tools that you're going to need are a knife. I got a box cutter here. A pair of needle nose pliers or regular dikes will work. Also wire strippers. And this one's good for crimping, but it also has a wire cutter and some stripper. And I'll show that a little bit later. An acid brush, obviously some solder, flux, which is really good for soldering. It helps oxidize and get a better solder joint in there to avoid that cold solder joint. And also rubbing alcohol. And all right, so first thing we're going to do is grab our cord, extension cord. Pull this off, and I'm going to wrap everything. Now, this video works extremely well with the PowerPoint that's out there, and also the flicker cord instructions that I typed up, and you can find those on my website at hotmaster.wix.com/gobs. It's amazing. I went on the internet and found that Gob is quite popular, so I had no idea. I picked it out of nowhere, and I had no idea it was a popular name. Now, there's two ends, obviously, here. We have the female, three points here, but this has the protector on it. What you have to do is just pull the protector off, and then you'll have the other set. If it has a hard time getting it off, I'll just go ahead and use that. All about safety. And then you got three. Alright, that just protects the better insulation, no dust gets inside, causing any shorts or anything like that. So we only have one side exposed at this time. Now, a little bit about this power cord. Even though it's AC, there are still things you might want to know about it being polarized. Now, you have a large prong here, and one's not quite as big. If you look at closely, oops, bad lighting. If you look closely at the prongs, one side's going to be larger than the other. Now, modern outlets have a larger side. That's the neutral side. And the smaller side is the hot lead side. All right? Your switch is hooked up to the neutral side, and your hot lead is hooked up to the smooth side. Okay, so now how they do that, that's how you do it from here. Now, what about the wire? Now, the wire, if you look at here, is smooth right here. It's kind of rough right here, little ridges right here. You can take a thumbnail and you hear it. You hear it flicker. ratchet effect. All right, if you will. The reason I want to use the male side is that when I attach the starter, I'm going to attach it onto the hot lead side, which is going to be the smooth side of the wire, and I want to put it on this side because when I plug this into a wall outlet, well, the starter's here, and it's easier to hide. You can put this behind a bookcase or somewhere you're drawing power out from the wall or something like that, and that'd be easier to hide, as opposed to where you put in the light on the other end of the female side of the wire. And you plug it in here, well then if it's here, that's a little bit, it's more bulky to try and hide. So we're just going to do it on the male side, so that way it's a lot easier to hide. Make sure my soldering iron doesn't fall off. Safety. Alright, so here we are, smooth side of the wire, and we're going to go ahead and use that side. Alright, what we're going to use is a knife. Now, if you look at your cord, with a knife, be very careful with this, because what I want to do is make a cut, and the idea is not to cut into bare wire. I want to cut through right in between the plastic where it's absolute thinnest. All right, I don't want to actually cut, because what can happen is I can cut through the insulation and expose that bare wire. Now, I don't want to do that. So as you saw, I did it. I just took the knife, went insert here and draw down, and I got a little bit of a gap here. All right, that's what we're trying to do, is split those two wires together right where they join at the around the insulation. Then I want to pull this thing apart. All right, now pull this apart. All right, and now I got a larger gap. I could just do that with my with just my hands. It's real easy to do. Now the next thing I'm going to do, get myself a little bit more room. Get yourself about inch and a half. I don't know what you call that, 2-inch gap right there. I call it about 2 inches. So that's what you want to do for the wire. All right. Now on the smooth side, because remember we're staying on the hot lead. We just I'm going to take the pair of dikes here, needle nose pliers, cut the wire. All right. And now I have 2 ends. All right, this is where I'm going to solder this part in, the starter. So now I'm going to go ahead and strip it. It looks like you take your wire strippers, and I'm going to call that about a 16 gauge. All right, so I'm going to put here on 16 gauge, and then strip. And a little bit more insulation to come off. Now, the thing about stripping, you don't want to pull out any copper wire. That compromises the gauge of the wire. In other words, it can only handle so much wattage, volts and amps. So we don't want to have ourselves too thin of a wire, because then you have a resistance there, and your wire can get hot, and then you're going to have some problems. So we're just going to maintain the integrity of the gauge of our wire that we're using. It looks like 16 gauge is what we're using, and that should be plenty for us. All right, and then just go ahead and make a couple of twists. All right, see how it is? Twist the 2 ends, probably about 1/2 inch a piece right there. All right, and that's what we got. And that's on the smooth side. Now, next. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this, put it off to the side, open this up, and we're using an FS5. Alright, take the FS5 starter. Now, I want to clean this off. When you solder, it's very important to have it cleaned. So I'm just going to take myself a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Doesn't take much. Take my acid brush, dip it into the alcohol. I'm just going to clean these terminals off, because sometimes to help keep corrosion, any kind of electronic part will have some protective coating to prevent any oxidation or anything like that. So it keeps them protected. So What we want to try and do is get all that stuff off. Alright. Next, I have an emery cloth. Now this is really going to be good on the top of the terminals. No biggie, just a couple of brushes. There we go. And now that's just bare metal right there. Now hopefully it's something like zinc. And got my solder. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and use some flux. Some people do well without flux. It's a personal preference. I just like having flux. I've been trained in the Air Force this way when I was doing electronics, and it always made sure I had a good solder joint. Alright, it's just a little bit is all you need. Put the flux away. Put that up. I'm going to take a nice hot, you can also clean your tip. The best thing to have is a damp sponge, but since I don't have one like a prep on my end, I'm just going to use this alcohol and get my tip nice and clean. Now, I'm going to move these things off to the side. Strippers, wire, and knife. We're done with those. I take this, heat up my wire, flux starts to melt, and there it goes. Okay, now what I end up doing was tinting, or what I call tinning, my wire. Do the same thing on this side. Now you probably don't see, might be a bad. What I'm doing is I'm just taking some flux. I'm heating the copper wire. Alright? And by tinning my wire, what I'm doing is I'm adding solder, and it's running right through all the wire, copper wiring. It's going through all the copper wire. Alright. Now, by having a tinted wire like this, it's no longer flimsy. It's like like one piece of wire now, one thick wire. Now the reason I did that is so now I can take my needle nose, and I'm just going to go ahead and now it's a little bit stiffer, a little bit harder, and it's got a hook. Now if you look at the post, see they have like little grooves right there. What my thing is to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to wrap it around that post. See how I'm doing that? See how it just hooks right in there? Okay? So it hooks right in there. And I pinch with the needle nose 2 points of my hook. Alright. So there you go. See how they're hooked right in there? They're not going anywhere. Now, next, flux is already on there. I'm going to heat my terminal, take the solder, finish up my solder right onto this copper wire. The flux really helps. And it just melts that solder right into all the copper wire. Alright, so we got good solder joints. Now, we can let it cool a little bit. Go ahead and let that cool a little bit. But next, electrician's tape. Now, I can see I'm coming to the end of this roll, but hope that should be enough for wrapping this up. Now, with exposed wires like this, you want to make sure they get all nice and wrapped. So what I'd like to do is start on one, and all I want to do is just keep wrapping it, keeping it tight, and stretching it, the tape, so there's no exposed wire. Now it's going to hold all that plastic together. All that soldering will not touch each other, causing a short. And I'm sure some folks out there are looking at this and going, oh my gosh. Now I'm going as cheap as possible. There are many ways of doing this. You can actually get a socket that's actually designed for what the starters go into. You take it and you twist it, and you can get those in your fixtures. That's just adding another part. But I'm just going as how you can make this as inexpensive as possible. Now, $1.97 for these fluorescent starters. You get two, so you can look at each one of those as $1, and you can go to Walmart, pick one of these up for $1. So it's $2. I get a flicker cord. I'm just showing you how to do this yourself. All right. Next, let's go ahead and test it. Just trying to find the other end. Okay, and there you go. That's all there is to it, a flicker cord. You got this thing on the hot lead side. Now we're going to go ahead and test it. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take I got this older light. I'll be right. There's my power. I have a light that is plugged in. Unplug it from the wall. Bring a light right here. That's a lamp. I'm gonna raise the camera up a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to show you something. This is what it looks like on a regular. If I was to run this light the way it is. There you go. I'm going to show off this. Okay. There's the light. And that's what it looks like ordinarily. Now, when I plug it into the flicker cord, now this is a T. This is, like I said, an FS5. Now that's the effect I get with the. See how it flickers? Now that'd be kind of cool if you can imagine putting that into a black light. I'm sorry, not black light, jack-o'-lantern, and they have the small 5.5. You can use an FS2 on that, but this is an FS5, works just as well. But you see how it kind of gives that little flickering effect. Now you can get old lanterns, and lanterns work, and you can put like Christmas tree. I'm not Christmas tree, but those candelabra-based lights that you'd find on C9 or C7 Christmas light strings, string of lights. You can take, like, not all of them, but you put like some amber or orange lights and just have this thing flickering. It's a really cool effect. It's wonderful for Halloween. I know my neighbors. I always get neighbors around my house. I say, "What's new for this year?" They're always looking for something, but that's what I'm trying to do now, is just share the knowledge that I have. And to anybody out there who really enjoys Halloween and wants to put up a good scare. All right, well, that's my first video for Gob, a company I'm just starting. And what I'm trying to do is, first thing is how to build a flicker cord. And that's the flicker cord. Alright, so thanks for watching. In the future, I'm always adding some new stuff, and I'm always looking for feedback. You can always reach me at hauntmaster@hotmail.com. You can also find my website. It is www.hauntmaster.wix.com/gobs. Alright, and I'll see you in the next time. And until then, you guys take care. Happy haunting.